In this video, you're going to see how to use the Infragistics Xamarin.Forms Toolbox, which is the world's first NuGet-powered toolbox. So let's get started. If you open up Visual Studio, we'll just go ahead and do a new project. And what I'm going to do is a cross-platform Xamarin app. So I'll just use the quick start here. And I am going to select cross-platform app. Xamarin.Forms is what we're going to do here. And we can leave it at app 6. I'm going to click OK. And what I want to do is just a blank app, and I'll do a portable class library, and I will click OK. Now we're going to go ahead and the project will add the Android, iOS, and UWP app. Really, we're just going to look at the toolbox here, so we'll just kind of wait for this to get done. So your screen should basically look like this, where you've got the app.xaml.cs. I've got my Android app, which is the startup. I've got iOS, and down here, I actually canceled on the UWP app, so we don't see that showing, and here's my portable class library. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy, and I'm going to open up my main page.xaml. Now this is where it gets pretty cool. So when you installed Infragistics, we installed v6 files, and we installed a local NuGet server so you could pull packages from it. So essentially it's just a file, it's a folder on your file system, and we updated Visual Studio so it knows where to look. Now for the future, just so you know, if you go to Tools, Options, and you scroll down, what you're going to see is a NuGet package manager item in the tree view here. And if I go to Package Sources, you'll see Infragistics Local. Now for the purpose of this video, because we're doing it before we launch, I am pointing to our internal server. This will actually be a folder on your file system. So we set this up for you during the install. So anyway, all of this is going to be fine, but the important thing to notice is this Infragistics local. So now that I'm here in my XAML page, you'll notice that I have my regular toolbox and there's nothing there. Of course, Xamarin has no WYSIWYG, it has no toolbox. But this is where Infragistics comes in, and this is what's really exciting about this release. So if I go to View and I go to Other Windows, what you'll see here is the Infragistics toolbox. So I'm going to go ahead and click that guy. And like magic, the Infragistics toolbox comes up, and look at what we have here. We have all of the Xamarin.Forms XAML elements that you get with the package. These are cross-platform, of course. They work for UWP, iOS, and Android, and it saves you a ton of time. So for example, if I want to use a button, I can just drag a button onto the XAML editor, and I have a button. Same with a grid. Let me grab a grid. Pretty slick, huh? But we went a step further. If you hover over an element, you'll see the tooltip, and it's saying if you press the control key down, we actually give you additional XAML, something that's actually more useful. So if I do control drag, look at what we get. We actually get a useful grid that's already preset with 2 columns and 5 rows. And this goes across the board for all of these controls. So here I'll select my slider, I'll hold the control key down, I'll drag it on, and look, it's already pre-populated with the things that matter when I think about what I need to do as an app dev. Look at this, we actually pre-populate a data template in the list view. So this is pretty amazing stuff. I mean, it's really exciting what we're doing here with this toolbox. But we go one step further. So let me go ahead and delete all this. And I'll go up here and I'll delete this guy here. And what about the Infragistics controls? So now in this particular application, if we go to references, you'll notice we don't have any Infragistics controls at all. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Manage NuGet Packages, and I will find in my list, remember, Infragistics Local, and I'm going to click Browse. So this is my local. Remember, this is something that we installed for you when you did the install of the product. So I'm going to scroll down, and I want to use the Infragistics Xamarin.Forms gauge, and I will put it up to my Android app, and I'm going to say Install. And maybe when that's done installing, we'll go ahead and add another one as well. But you'll notice here in my output window, it's basically saying it's adding our dependencies. So we're dependent on the Infragistics core, the Infragistics data visualization library. We're using Skia Sharp for rendering. So the beautiful thing about these NuGet packages is that it will actually pull all of the dependencies for you, and they'll tell you when they need to get updated. So it really saves you a lot of time. It's actually a pretty convenient way of building product. So let's go. We've got the gauges. You'll see we have the scheduler in there, DV, charts. Let's go ahead and just grab these charts that's in there. And we'll click install, and we'll install these guys. Now this is actually pretty slick. So let's wait for this to install. It'll tell us in our output window that we're completed here in a second. And there we go, we're all done. I'm going to close out my NuGet window. And now look what's in the toolbox. I get all of the infragistics controls. So when we talk about time saving and just delivering and building applications faster, for you to know what to add into the XAML editor, so you actually have to know what the control is called. You either have to look at a sample, you're looking at the help file. Just to get started, it's very difficult. And then worse yet, having to know what namespaces to add. So watch what happens when I drag something like the radial gauge onto my XAML editor. So not only did it add the radial gauge, but it also added the namespace. So check this out. So if I look here, it added all of that XAML, which makes up the namespace for this particular gauge. And it's the same behavior here. So based on the type of control that you're hovering over, so for example, a pie chart is an interesting control because I could have just a regular old pie chart. So there's my pie chart. But if I also wanted a legend, let me do a control drag. And look, we actually add the legend reference and the legend tag as well. So we're going to continue to add this additional XAML to your to the output that we put in the XAML editor, so it just makes it easier for you to get going. So that's an overview of the toolbox, how to access the toolbox, and some of the really neat features of the Infragistics Xamarin.Forms Toolbox, the world's first NuGet-powered toolbox.